Yo, it's Captain, holding its phone, hopefully better than yesterday. We're doing another Captain's log of Star Rail, patch 2.1. Uh, Still very early into the story. Oh, I meant to check. We were an hour into the story of a 6 hour story. I think I only made it like 30 minutes today. But today will probably be less about the story and more about a thought I had while on the thing. So I don't know, depending on how much is one or the other. It may be a captain's log. It may be a thoughts on the Honkai Star Rail slash Genshin style of game. But I thought we would just contextualize it in the captain's log just for it to make sense here. I don't know. So we didn't get very far today. Is the point, and the story was light because it's a map exploration part of the story, and so I just kind of explored some map. But we did get to see a nice part where um, we're playing the part with Aventurine and Dr. Ratio, and Aventurine gets shrunk down and Dr. Ratio is like real big, and it's like, oh, it's a big doctor. And they're just having so much fun. There's not too much. I'll wait till we get through this section to really talk about the story. But I will just say it was nice to see the humor again. Um, like I said, this story is kind of an action comedy in my mind, and we've seen like a lot of drama and a lot of suspense, and so far, and it was nice. Oh, that's right. There's that comedy. We saw those like goofy NPC bots that were like breaking down, and the voice guy was like making all sorts of crazy sounds. It was very funny, and I had a blast. And it's just a nice like tone shift from where we were, and all this like serious setup and these big dramatic moments, and it's like, oh, now this is just fun. So that was nice, but I mean literally like no story happened. So right, yeah, that didn't take very long. So what I figure what I like to do is take this opportunity to talk about something that was interesting on stream, that I've been thinking about before, and it's this idea of like what kind of game Genshin Impact and thus Star Rail is, because Star Rail is set up just like Genshin. So it's style of game, and then to compare it to like, I think it's previous the style of game that would previously appeal to people who are into this thing, and kind of its competitor, like the MMO genre. Specifically the type of MMO that's like Final Fantasy 14. I've been telling people for a while that if you like Final Fantasy 14, you should check out Genshin Impact. Um, and if you like Genshin, you should check out Star Rail, and kind of, well, vice versa, but kind of also opposite. They're the way the games are set up is very similar, but the tone is different. I like Star Rail's tone a lot better. It speaks to me more, but that doesn't mean Genshin's bad. It's just a different kind of thing. Some people will prefer Genshin, but the idea. But I like this comparison between Final Fantasy 14 and Genshin slash Star Rail, because it's this idea that you have a story. They're primarily story based games, and the big draw is the story and the characters, more so for the Hoyoverse games, because they are gacha games. They literally sell the game based on their characters. So the characters are a huge draw there, and there's a lot more of them. But, right, you've got a very similar setup. In Final Fantasy 14 and in the MMO style, every few months you get a patch, and it adds something new for you to play and do. Well, these Hoyoverse games is like every 5 6 weeks you get a patch and there's something new to do. So it's much faster, but it's a very similar thing. So So like, what's the difference? Is it good? Is it bad? It's just different. It's just different. Hoyoverse marketed Genshin as a console mobile hybrid, and I think this comes from their mobile part. Mobile games move very quickly because they need you like playing every day. Um, MMOs need you playing every day. They both want engagement, right? And they both have like dailies, but it's like a different kind of daily. Usually, the MMO daily is like, do some quests, spend some time here, and maybe do some multiplayer stuff. Well, these Hoyoverse games, and I don't know if there's like a bigger genre. I haven't seen people do it in the way that I'm talking about specifically more than Hoyoverse and primarily Genshin and Star Rail. It's like, other MMOs are similar to 14, but they're different as well. Like the closest one is WoW, every few months there's a patch, hopefully, but it's not really like a big story thing. Other mobile games are going to do the same as Hoyo games, but again, I find the comparison most apt between 14 and Genshin or Star Rail. So that's I don't know what else to call them, but Hoyoverse games. But that come from their like mobile part. It's like, oh, we gotta always have stuff to do. We gotta have things to grind. We have a stamina bar, and part of your daily is burning your stamina bar. You gotta grind for items, all this stuff. So everything just feels faster. They feel like a compressed MMO. And as someone who's been playing games a long time, played a lot of MMOs, I find that fascinating. I find it fascinating. I'm like, and in some ways, I feel like it's a response to the market, right? There's a lot more games, there's a lot more competition, and people are always begging for more content, right? That's the number one complaint of any live game is we want more content, we beat it all. You hear that all the time in the MMOs. You hear that all the time in Genshin and Star Rail. But here we go. We have this new format of game, this kind of mobile idea that translates quite well to the MMO idea, and it's moving faster. It's not 3 to 4 months, it's 5 to 6 weeks. Now for me, I'm really fucking slow. That's actually a little overwhelming. I like, 14's like, every few months we have some story for you to do. The rest, just, do whatever grind you think is fun. And there is more longer term grinds. Like there's things to do, and we talked about it a little bit on stream, but there's things to do in like Star Rail. But I think the chat concept was, 14 is going to have more side activities, more like fleshed out, bigger things to do. I don't know. I haven't played like 14 super long term to really compare. I'd like to, and I said I'd really like to sit down and like look at a 14 patch and look at a Star Rail patch or look at a Genshin patch and see what they're like, because I don't know. I mean, this Star Rail patch added 6 hours of story content. That's a lot. It'll probably add a character story halfway through, which is, usually like another hour of content. Um, it's going to have events and side activities and whatnot, right? I just feel like this free to play, this mobile kind of thing is hitting what MMOs did and maybe doing it better. And I feel like, you know, we're gonna see, I think I always say it. I think there's a reason free to play was successful, and it's like you've got to compete for people's time, but they do it through events because they don't already have your money, so they gotta like have a draw. They have to have an excitement every week, right? Whereas like a monthly sub, right? Theoretically, you just have to have something interesting enough per month. So just from like a business model perspective, it's going to lead them to, being on a faster pace. And I like, I don't know. Okay, I guess I don't have a segue here, but the other thing I wanted to think about that's related is like the success of these games is also based on their community, very much like MMOs are. MMOs, it's like everybody's playing though, right? All right, hold on. Let's see if I've got the. I can't see the viewfinder on the camera because I'm holding it. So hopefully I'm not fading off this time. But the player base is what's important, and the community is what's important for MMOs because multiplayer. But I think Genshin shows us that you can make a live community-based game that's single player. Like there's a little co-op in Genshin. There's no co-op in Star Rail, but it's successful because it's like a big community thing. They get a lot of community posts. They get like a bunch of fan art and stuff, and they get people talking. And it's live development. So new something comes out, everybody talks about it. Everybody's in on it. It's like a TV show. It's like the TV show version of video games, right? Is this kind of live concept? And I think the first time we saw that was MMOs, and I think we're seeing like a more refined kind of version of it. Um, with these Hoyo games. They described their previous to Genshin game, Honkai Impact, as an ACG, which I'm pretty sure stands for Action Comics Game. And the idea is the comics part is like it releases episodically. And so here we have this episodic release, just like MMOs, just like a TV show, right? You have this, and that's carried over to Genshin and Star Rail. And then you have this, oh, everybody gets excited about it. Everybody gets excited about the new release. And even though they're single player games, and I think you see this success, I think you see this format that they say is a hybrid between, console and um, mobile. But I think you just see this new format that makes a lot of sense for today, right? Because people are wanting things faster, people are wanting more engagement, but they're also wanting things shorter, the mobile part. But they're also wanting things that are still like you can take a big bite out of, like the big story, like the MMO. Um, and it's more convenient. MMOs are always like, do we make solo content? Do we make multiplayer content? Do we make casual content? Do we make hardcore content? And it's like, we have to make single player, we have to make casual content because, that's the majority of players. Because even if players prefer multiplayer, like it's harder to make time for multiplayer. So even if you're a multiplayer player, you're probably still spending most of your time single player just because of scheduling. So they have to make the single player content. They have to. And so you have this format. Now it's like, well, what if we just made the game where it was just all single player, kind of casual, right? It's kind of like how you saw MOBAs broke off and, um, well, okay, I was going to list several, but I can only think of the one. It's kind of like you saw the MMOs used to be the everything game, but then little pieces of them broke off into their own genres that were more specific, like PvP used to be a big thing in MMOs. Well, now there's just PvP games, and people play those instead. I think here we are, we're seeing like the casual community um, interest game break off and become its own thing. I don't know. These are just thoughts I have. Like it's a little bit of a rambly video uh, because there wasn't much story that we made it through because I am slow and it was a shorter. It was kind of a bonus stream today. It was a shorter bonus stream. But that's a thing. That's a thought that's been rolling around in my head for a while. Like how this just the comparison between this format and MMOs and how it's kind of like a single player MMO. And you hear that by a lot of different games from a lot of different things, but here it is. A single player MMO is in the casual community game with hype around episodic releases. And so I thought it'd be fun to like throw it out there. I mean, there's a thoughts videos, might be something interesting to have a conversation about. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? What do you think? YouTube. Write a comment, right? That's what it's all about. I don't know. Hopefully that wasn't too rambly for you. Hopefully I get a solution to holding this phone. Hopefully I was on the camera this time. But that's what I got for today. Um, I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I will see you around.